This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash and Mykie Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mykie Stiller, joined by my co-host, Arash, and you are listening to a very special episode of the podcast. This is our 100th episode. It's hard to believe that we launched the podcast almost 2 years ago, and I want to give you a big thank you for following along and listening, whether this is the first episode you've listened to or the 100th. We are so happy you're here, and we have a really special episode planned for you. So first, I'm going to bring on my co-host. Arash, how are you?
I'm great, Mykie. 100.
I know. Happy 100.
Yes, happy 100. That really flew by.
I am excited about today's episode because you have an idea of a special concept that you want to share. So instead of me introducing it, I thought I'd let you introduce it today.
Yeah, I'm constantly in upgrade mode with what I do, but I love teaching everything that I know that works to everybody. I want the whole world to have it because the more you help people win, it just creates such a ripple effect. I call it 3x4, and I'll get into it in a minute. But I want to start with understanding this key concept. Right now in your life, if I asked, what are the two most expensive things you pay for? I want you to think about that. And I want you to think what comes in your mind. What are the two most expensive things I pay for? Now, a lot of people's minds may go, my mortgage payment, my taxes, whatever comes in your mind. But the biggest thing we pay for is time. That's number one. And the second biggest thing say that again?
Time wasted.
Just time wasted, how we're using our time. So that's the first thing, because you can always earn more money, but you can never get back to your time. So that's the number one greatest asset or greatest waste. The second thing that we pay the most for is ignorance, of not knowing. People think they believe things because they think it's true, but it doesn't mean that it's true. That's where ignorance comes in. So if you look at your goal, I want you to embrace your results right now. And I want you to look at your goal, but then look at your results, and I want you to embrace them. What are the results showing you? When we embrace our results, it gives us clarity. We can see what is going on. But here's the greatest part that I want you to get in a habit of doing regularly from a neutral place so you're not emotionalizing it, good or bad. I want you to allow it to see patterns. Maybe you're really winning right now, but you're grinding. You are a grinder. Well, understand you don't have to grind to win. That's a big paradigm shift for a lot of people. A lot of people are probably resisting what I just said. They have it as a badge of honor that I grind. But understand you're wasting a lot of time where you could create even bigger results. But I want you to look at your patterns, good and bad, and what patterns must you eliminate? What patterns no longer are working? And then look at the patterns that are working, you want to double down on those. See, when we look at our patterns, it prevents you from making the same mistakes over and over again. And then it builds a lot of awareness around what you're excelling at in your business, in your job, in your relationships, and really in your craft. But I want you to emphasize what's most important. Now, here's a statement that I've said 1,000 different ways, but I keep repeating it because it's so important you ingrain this in you. In order for you to become everything you can become, you must stop being what you've been so you can become all you can be. Now, I've said this in so many different ways. A few episodes again, I said you've got to break the addiction of being your old self. I'm saying it in this way because you have to always build a new model. You have to level up. So time is very crucial how we're using it. Now, I created a process that will eliminate the wasted time if you do this for 90 days? And I want to give it to you. I thought it's such an important process because it'll eliminate the people out there who are grinding. Listen, I used to be a grinder, and people don't want to grind. They do not want to grind. They know there's a better way. There's always a better way. And I call it the 3x4. So I'm going to explain it to you in depth, and I want you to test it. Don't believe me. Test it for yourself. This will create a massive, massive, massive breakthrough and quantum leap for you. I want you to put your goal in your mind. If you're listening to this, if you're at home watching it on YouTube, I want you to write down your goal. But I want you to put your goal in your mind. Now, the 3x4 means there's 4 things that I'm going to go over, and there's 3 parts of the 4 things. So if you look at your goal, I want you to write down what are the 3 standards that for the next 90 days I'm going to implement inside of me. What are those 3 standards? Remember, those are non-negotiables. Those are things you will not go under, and these are things that you will not tolerate. Your goal demands those standards. So write down what those 3 standards are. Then I want you to write down what are the 3 most important discipline coming from my future self and my goal. Is it selling? Is it doing it now? Is it working with a bigger idea of myself? These are examples of discipline. And I want you to write those down. Then you write down what are the 3 non-negotiable action steps I'm taking every day, but I'm getting 1% better at them. I'm getting more emotionally involved in them because you could do the same actions. Like my goal doesn't mean I have to take different actions. I just get better through repetition at those actions. Maybe it's prospecting. Maybe it's your sales presentation. Maybe it's asking for more referrals. What are those 3 actions you're going to take every day? And then you're going to commit to 3 wins every day from your goal. 3 wins every day. So that's what 3x4 is. 3 wins every day. I've told you this over and over again. In 90 days, 5 days a week, that's 194 and a half wins. And if you implement this, I promise you, time will multiply you. We want to use time as a tool. We want to go, how I want you to think is how can I get to where I want faster? Because you can. So when you implement this process, it'll be an absolute game changer.
This is so good. You talked about patterns there. And what I want you to touch on is why is it so easy if you're not really intentional to just fall back to your old pattern? Even if you do this for a week, even if you do it for 2 weeks, you're still at risk of falling back into the old pattern.
Well, because the program's running us 95% of the day. And a lot of people are trying to change their result working with the same program. It just cannot work. We have to constantly upgrade our program. That's why a great way to change your patterns is be around people who are more successful than you. You're going to see a completely different pattern. See, what most people believe is true is not actually true. I tell clients this all the time. I have a great client of mine. She goes, "Do you think ambition's getting in my way?" And I said, "That's an interesting question." And I said, "Not the way you think." I said, "Right now you think it's getting in your way because you're grinding." I said, "But if we start leveraging, that ambition is going to multiply you." So there's always a good and a bad in everything we're doing. So we want to look at it. We want to eliminate the bad and leverage the good. Mm-hmm. So we could take this and we could use the second time waster, which is ignorance. So you can't implement what I'm telling you if you don't commit to trying it. That would be a form of ignorance, not knowing. And that's why I'm always telling people, just because I say something, you're going to get more out of it once you implement it yourself. Like I used to be the most ignorant person. I remember I could tell you thousands of stories when I was failing of how ignorant I was, but then I changed my ignorance to knowledge by leveraging other people with specialized knowledge. Like on our podcast, you're leveraging specialized knowledge, but you may only be leveraging it a little bit. Like if you're not implementing it, then you're not going to leverage it. You're going to know about it. So we want to look at maybe I'm not getting to my goal because I'm ignorant about how I'm using my mind. I think I'm doing it because I listen to podcasts, I read books, but what am I implementing? The ideas only work if we work the ideas. So that could go back to patterns. So if we look at the patterns and we say, I keep listening to a lot of things, but I'm not doing it. See, you want to do it until it's harder not to do. That's how you know it will become an empowering pattern that is going to leverage time. So that's why I'm always looking at what is like when I look at patterns, I go, what are my subconscious blocks? That's a pattern. That's a pattern of me going to my old self. So how can I leverage a negative pattern into a positive? By being aware of it and doing the exact opposite. So we want to look at those patterns.
What would you say is the best way for someone to identify the patterns in their life? Would it be through questions, what is your process there?
Questions are the best way. Like if we start questioning our assumptions, a lot of people are thinking, let me say this a little deeper, but they're thinking, what if this doesn't work? They're so committed to comfort. Like if you look at an eagle didn't learn how to fly right away, it fell. But as humans, we don't want to fall. We say, no, I'm going to protect myself from that. Like when an eagle's first learning how to fly, it doesn't just fly, it falls. But we say we want big things, yet if we observe our standards, our actions, our disciplines, are they aligned with that? And going back to what I wanted to go deeper in, and I've said this many times, but maybe today you're going to hear it different with what I'm teaching, is you have to be willing to fail at your future self than succeed at your present self. That's a pattern. You either have one or the other. You either know you're doing that and you know you're not doing it. So that would be a pattern. Like if you don't have a pattern that I'm willing to fail and I'm willing to be bold, then you have the opposite pattern, which is I'm doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
You mentioned being committed to comfort. Is that what you think holds most people back from implementing a process like this?
Yeah, they're constantly committed to comfort, even though they don't like comfort. They think they like comfort because what? It's safe. But they feel much better when they're out of comfort. Like you want to create, if you really want to win big, kind of leveraging our last lesson on fear, you want to always go to the unknown. At least once a day, you want to go to that unknown because that's where the magic happens. That's where ordinary becomes extraordinary. Like we were going through this, Mike. Like, I mean, how many people we've taken now who always wanted to earn 7 figures who are now crushing that? These were just people like me and you who were just starting. I remember when I started and now they're like in a completely different place. But most people are asking the wrong question. They're asking the question, what if it doesn't work? And this is what I always tell my clients. I said, well, you already know your way isn't working. So why are you so committed to doing what isn't working? Pattern. Then I said, I want you to imagine that this does work and you change your family's life. You take the most amazing vacations. You're doing what you love and loving what you're doing. So do you want to bet on what doesn't work because of comfort? Or do you want to bet on what does work that has been shown thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times? So these are what we want to break through. And that would go into the question of somebody saying, what if it doesn't work? That would be ignorance. Mm-hmm. You don't know until you do the thing. So are you willing to do the thing that is going to level you up? And that's what we want to keep understanding. But this 3x4 process, it's impossible for it not to work. Think about this. If I was operating the same top 3 standards every day, your life isn't going to get worse. If I was consistent, because life is about consistency, the man or woman that's most consistent always wins. If I operated my disciplines every single day for 90 days, if I did 3 great action steps, and I don't mean big, but I do it in a great way because it's the little things compounded over time that create the big results. And if I'm really not ending my day till I get my 3 wins, what do you think is going to happen to your results in 90 days? It's going to change the game.
When you're implementing a new process for you personally into your life, is there anything that you do to set yourself up for success to ensure that you create the new discipline? Do you add it to your calendar? Do you set alarms? Like, is there anything that you do specifically to make sure that you don't fall off on implementing a new process?
Now, I always write it out first, and I deconstruct it from the end. So I'm always deconstructing, but everything I do is from my want, like who I want to become. Anything that I could break, like this process breaks your old self. So you can put it on an alarm. Like I'm still old school. I write everything down. Like I have notebooks out of notebooks and I write everything down, but it's always in front of me as a reminder. You could put it in your phone as an alarm. That's another way to do it, is put it in an alarm. And so anything that works for you, everybody's different. Like that's what works for me. What you, so you know what works for you. Do whatever works for you. Like some people just commit and they know it. They just know. Other people, they need to have reminders. Other people like me, I try to put everything as a cheat code. So I do reminders and have everything in front of me.
And I just want to say, because it's making me smile, when Arash says that he has reminders in front of him, his computer screen is literally covered with sticky notes.
I'm old school.
He's handwritten it on a sticky note and stuck it to his computer.
I have so many sticky notes in front of me all the time. I really do, because that's just what works for me.
Yeah.
Like
I can't even keep sticky notes in my house because my kids steal them.
Yeah, like you have all these Excel sheets.
Yeah.
And but it's 2 people who have a completely different way of doing things that comes to the same outcome. That's why I always say, like, just get to know what works for you. What works for you. Now, what is another form of ignorance? Lack of repetition. I know this. I've read the book, so I know it. I've heard this, so I know it. You don't know it unless it's automatic. If it's not automatic, you're not doing it. I promise you.
What is it inside of us that convinces ourselves that we don't have to physically do a process? That like, oh, we're good. It's it's fine.
We get a result once and we drink our own Kool-Aid. But repetition is the mother of learning. You gain power through repetition. When you repeat something over and over again, where you don't even have to think about it, but you're repeating it, that's how you know it's installed in your identity. It's a part of your program. But your paradigm resists repetition. It does not like doing the same thing over and over again. Well, somebody will be like, no, I love doing things over and over again. That's because you did the repetition, that it's already part of your program. If you're resisting repetition, it's because it's out of harmony with your current program. Your program is resisting it. And that's why we do it.
I think a really interesting metaphor here is that you would never go after a fitness goal and then complete the fitness goal, right? You hit your goal and then think that you're going to maintain the fitness goal without doing what got you to the fitness goal. You never train for a big marathon race and then think that a year later you could run the race again without training. But for some reason, in a non-physical result, or not as physical, I would say, the thinking is just so impaired.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember when things really started to change for me. I'd hit my biggest achievement. And instead of really drinking my Kool-Aid, as I like to call it, I would tell myself, anybody can do this once. You've got to repeat it. And that's when the game changed for me. Because I wanted to make it a habit. Like earning money is a habit, selling is a habit, thinking is a habit, attitude is a habit. So that's when it just changed for me. So I'll give you this. The next time you have, and maybe you're in this right now, you had the best month of your life. I want you to say to yourself, anybody can do this once. I want to do it again. And I have this rule. Once I repeat it 3 months in a row, okay, it's a part of my habit. So I'm actually more inspired and more motivated the second month because I want to show myself that I could repeat it.
That's so good. All right, let's get into an action step for today.
Well, the action step's pretty simple. It's the whole lesson.
Yeah.
You implement the 3x4. So I want you to write down the 3 standards, not that you currently have. Maybe it's part of your goal. Maybe it is. That's okay. You can get strong. You can embed the standard even stronger. The 3 standards, the 3 disciplines from your goal that you're going to commit to for 90 days, the 3 actions, you're going to do the 3 most important actions every day, and you're not going to bed until you get your 3 wins. You watch how much this will change in 90 days.
There you go. Arash, thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for joining us for our 100th episode. We're so happy to be here with you, and we plan on bringing you 100 more episodes of incredible content. So please leave us a rating and review. Share this with your friends and family, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the 7-Figure Standard Podcast. Thanks, Arash.
Thanks, Mikey.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mykie and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachandco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.